are listening to the Jboy Show, your number one source for Auburn and the SEC.
My goal was to run through his soul and grab his heart when I run through his soul.
Kurt, Nate, Coach Dab. Those are memories. I think we've established ourselves as, I think, the premier conference in college football.
Now, the SEC is better at the top. It's better in the middle.
The Southeastern Conference remains the premier conference.
Now takes the snap. Looking for the receiver. He's got Lutz and Kirkland. Touchdown, Auburn!
Think about it. It's always been the SEC and everybody else trying to catch it.
I think this is probably the best league from a competitive venue standpoint.
Most capable teams. You just look at those programs, the way they recruit, how they invest.
Snap to Burrow. 3 steps. Fires. Back corner of the end zone. Over the shoulder catch. Did he hold on? He did. Justin Jefferson. Touchdown, Tiger.
And now, your host, Jboy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Jboy Show. Very excited to be joined by a guy that played in the SEC, played at Auburn, played in the NFL for 16 years, a 3-time Pro Bowler, Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, won the Wizzy White Award, the Ed Courage Blocking Award. I mean, man, you did it all.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on. But I was very blessed to have a pretty successful NFL career. But people always ask where it started, and I always give credit to my days at Auburn because really, as you know, that's where my heart is, and that's where my heart will always be.
Exactly. And so you're from Daleville and you went to Auburn in 1990. Can you kind of talk about, because you rushed, it was, I believe, for 1,000 yards your senior year, and you didn't actually play football until high school. Can you kind of talk about just that transition and then go into Auburn after Daleville?
Yeah, it was a huge transition. And the reason why we ended up in Daleville because my dad was in the military. So I was actually born in Frankfurt, Germany, and we pretty much lived I was born in Frankfurt. We lived there for 2 years. Moved to El Paso, Texas for 3 years. Back to Germany for 3 years. Born out Kentucky for 3 years. Back to Germany. And finally moved to Alabama. So it kind of, the only reason I really picked up football is because most of the guys that I kind of thought that were the cool club or the kids I kind of wanted to hang around with, they were athletes. So they said, hey, man, you should come out and try for the football team. And I like to laugh about this all the time because I had, the coach put all my pads in my locker, and I'm sitting there looking at that stuff. I'm like, man, I have no idea where the pads go. So I had my butt pad and my hip pad probably in my knee. It was definitely a big transition. But we had a really good high school football coach by the name of Perry Swindle, and Coach Swindle, he came in, he implemented a new weight program. Really got people excited, about football in that area again. And so my senior year, we were 2-8. So, but we actually ended up paving the way. I think the next couple of years they won state champions. So it was tough, going out and playing on the football field and winning only 2 games your senior year. But obviously, sometimes through tough times, you kind of find out who you are as a person, as a man, and the fact that the city really rallied behind us, and so. That I think, because I went to Alabama, which I hate to say this, but I actually went to, I think it was Gene Stallings. I went to his football camp at Alabama. And then, when I went to Auburn, Coach Dye's camp, I ended up getting offered there, and I committed. I hadn't looked back since.
Yeah, and can you kind of talk about, so you're kind of hanging out with your group and they're like, hey man, we play football, you should try. Did you fall in love with it like the minute you stepped out there, or was there kind of like an awkward phase for a couple days and then you kind of figured it out?
Yeah, for the first couple of days it was kind of awkward, and then just because I had never really played, like you always you play football in the backyard and just kind of hang out with your boys or whatever. But you really, even with my brothers and sisters, just throwing the ball around. But I never really played organized football. But the great part about the story was the first game that I had, I got the ball like on the 20 and ran like an 80-yard touchdown.
Oh, man.
This was pretty easy. so obviously it wasn't that easy, but it was definitely it was cool. But the thing about it was like my coach really encouraged all of us to play every sport. So I was playing baseball, I was playing basketball, ran track, and it was just like, and we powerlifters. We had a weightlifting club as well. And so it really just, it changed my life. It really, I saw my body change just because, getting the weight program, and obviously I was getting faster running track, really meeting a lot of people playing different sports. And so it's just kind of different. It was definitely different for me, but, yeah, so it wasn't as easy at first, but obviously through hard work, things worked out.
Definitely, and they definitely did for you. And kind of moving on in your career, so you get to Auburn, did they put you at fullback right away? Was that a transition thing? Because you were a guy and really one of the first guys that I can remember being able to do more than just block at the fullback position. And obviously you got to the NFL and were able to do multiple things. So when you were at Auburn, were they like, listen, man, we're going to stick you at fullback and this is what you got? Or were they like, we're going to do some things with you?
Yeah, so I was recruited as a tailback. Okay. And I always felt like, I wanted to play tailback. Crazy enough, my freshman year while we were in camp that year, I'm out there on the scout team. I'm going crazy, just like hitting everything that's moving. And so what happened was Stacey Danley and James Joseph were injured during that camp. And so they were like, okay, we need to, find. Coach Dow was like, son, we need to find a place for you to play. So at the time, I think it was John Stewart was at fullback. I think Reed McMillan. Mm-hmm. So it was, and then Teapot Brown from Dothan was there. And so they put me at fullback. And so I was just, guys used to make bets, like how many guys' helmets I was going to knock off.
That's awesome. So you were true head busting out there from the jump.
Yeah, that's the only thing I knew. I only knew one speed, guys, especially because, our defense I think we were number 2 and then May had the number 1 on defense because that's we had David Rocker, Tracy Rocker, like we were, and Corey Barlow. So we had a great defense. But it's one of those things, it's like the only thing I knew was one speed. And, some of the guys on defense were like, hey, man, you need to slow down. I'm like, nah, sorry, I already know one speed. And so I just went out just like, rolling ball with butcher knives and just trying to hit everything that's moving. And crazy enough, the first game against, I can't remember who we played, but I ended up starting as a freshman. And that was like, that was big time for me because, you get there and all of a sudden you see the depth chart and you're at the bottom of the depth chart. It's just like, man, how's this going to work out?
Exactly.
And Coach Dye had enough faith in me to start me as a freshman.
Yeah, and again, you're a guy that played a lot of snaps. And can you do you mind, Tony, kind of just giving me a memory and giving the audience an Auburn memory that you hold very near and dear to your heart, whether it's a play or the ending of a game or just something throughout your career at Auburn that kind of sticks out to you?
Well, I think really I can share 2. Obviously there's a lot. Yeah. But, crazy enough, because somebody actually tweeted at me and showed me this play. So we're playing against Florida. We're playing against Florida State. It was my freshman year, and I think I ended up, I think I had like a 20-yard rush or whatever. But it was just like big time, like just realizing like, man, I'm actually playing in the SEC. Mm-hmm. My teammates are, had James Willis, who obviously started as a freshman as well. We have all these guys, and like we were rolling. And really had a chance to win the SEC until we went up to Florida on a Saturday night and happened to walk into a beehive. But, I remember the game against Florida State. That's one of my favorite games. But the game that really sticks out to most of me, just simply because we never, until my senior year, we had never beat Alabama, and so here we are. We're second time ever. Auburn and Alabama, and obviously Alabama came to our place. And we were 10-0, and they were 9-1, and just the best play in my entire career. And it wasn't really even about me; it was more so about the team. It was about James Bostic, and we ran a lead play, and I cut blocked. I guess it was the Mike linebacker, and I see Bostic rolling. That was just one of those things I didn't want to see once he broke loose through the line of scrimmage, that no one was going to be able to catch him. And so I think the person that caught him first was me because when he scored, I just remember just like there was so much like. Because we were kind of, not necessarily the stepchild in the SEC, but Alabama had won 2 national championships. Mm-hmm. They were loaded. As they always are. But this particular year, was us against the world, and it was just like all of that frustration of losing against Alabama, and finally we ended up breaking out and winning. I think I jumped probably from the 5-yard line, hit JB in his zone, and man, that was the hardest hit I had all year long. But that's probably that's those famous And probably the biggest thing that stands out about my career.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So you get done at Auburn. It's 94. It's draft day. You end up going undrafted. You sign with the Cowboys, and then you just kind of take off from there once you went to the Chiefs especially. Can you kind of talk about going from being undrafted to having a career that most, if not every player, would envy to the fullest extent?
Yeah, that's actually, a good transition, because the thing about was, at that year, my senior year, that's when, because Pat Dot Jr. was actually my agent, well, still is my agent, but I was him not playing anymore. But, kind of going through that, and, it was kind of uncharted space for me because I never really envisioned playing on the next level. But all of a sudden I started, scouts started talking, Pat was saying, he's like, hey, T. Rich, there's a good chance you're going to get drafted. And that was the year we went undefeated. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people really were coming to look at Wayne Gandy, obviously, who went first round, and then Bostic ended up going third, I think it was third round. And so I didn't get invited to the combine. Like, I'm disappointed, but, we had our pro day, and then all of a sudden, I ran pretty well, was able to, bench pretty well, and then they looked at the tape. I was like, oh man, this guy can play. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting at home in Daleville with my parents and my friends, and home first round, which I knew I wasn't going first round. Second round, all of a sudden we get to like the last round, and I'm sitting there like, man, I hope this phone rings. So, it didn't, and it was very disappointing. And I just remember going back in my room, and I just got on my knees and I prayed, and I was like, Lord, if this is something that you want from me, then obviously you're going to have to do it, because I guess my way didn't work out. And all of a sudden the phone started ringing. So Pat said, hey, T. Rich, I know you're disappointed, but this is what's called free agency. And in free agency, you get a chance to kind of really pick the team that you want to, and that wants you, and also that you think is the best situation. And so we looked around, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Atlanta Falcons, Miami Dolphins, and then the Dallas Cowboys. And so Pat was like, yeah, I think you should go to Dallas. And I'm like, Pat, come on, man. I'm like, they got a running back by the name of Emmitt Smith. Yeah. They got Derek Lassick, who obviously went to Alabama. They had Daryl Johnson, who was the Moose, who's Emmitt's fullback. Mm. And then also they had a guy by the name of Tommy Agee, who was Emmitt's best friend. Yeah, God. As well. And so I'm looking at this roster, and he's just going back-to-back Super Bowls. I'm like, Pat, this is just career suicide for me to, go there. And he's like, no, I think if you work hard, good things are going to work out. So it was one of those things that you couldn't ask for a better situation. Obviously, I ended up being on practice squad that particular year, but all those guys really took me under their wing, from Michael Irvin to obviously Emmitt to Daryl Johnson to, and of course, Tommy Agee, who we call Toolbox, because he was able to do everything. Mm. They took me under their wing, and basically just it was a year where, one, I got a chance just to sit back, see how professionals really do it, and plus they had just come on back-to-back Super Bowls, and so these guys are like, they're the greatest team. And so I just got a chance to learn. Pretty much my rookie year was just to make sure that Emmitt Smith's helmet didn't touch the ground and he had water and all those things. But it really molded me for what was in store. And then after that year of the practice squad, here comes another situation where, looking around and seeing what's the best situation, and end up signing with Kansas City, and then walking to the locker room. My number is 49, so it was number 32, and it was number 42, and I was close to both of them. So 32 was Marcus Allen, 42 was Ronnie Lott. So I'm just like, oh boy. So a lot of people forget that Ronnie Lott was even on that roster through training camp. So I had two Hall of Fame. First of all, two Hall of Fame people, but two Hall of Fame football players. And they were right next to me, and they really took me under their wing and showed me the way. And then from there it was special teams, and then, everything started to take off from there.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, so it was almost like your first year in the NFL was almost like a redshirt year for you, which seemed just to kind of get you in there and to understand what's going on. And then you go into a locker room. Can you just talk about that locker room with Marcus Allen? It just a guy and Ronnie Lott that, like you said, are not only Hall of Famers, but really staples in the game of football. What was it like interacting with those guys and being able to kind of pick their brains a little bit?
Yeah, I think that rookie year, my rookie year really was. It was kind of like a redshirt year, but the thing about it, because there's only I think the practice squad has grown since then as far as numbers, but there was like 5 guys on the practice squad.
Wow, I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yes, we had 5 guys on the practice squad, and so really, I'm I'm taking reps with the first team, because obviously they can't take all the reps. And so they rotate me in. And so each week, our special teams coach is like, hey, Tony, be ready, because you just never know.
Yeah.
You can get called up. So I had to prepare every last week, every single week as if I was going to play. So I'm learning the playbook. I'm doing the scout team work for defense. So I'm really getting a chance to see, everything from different angles. And so it was a great learning experience, but also, I'm sitting in all the meeting rooms. Obviously had to bring breakfast for all the running backs.
Oh yeah, rookie stuff. They made my dad actually get up. They made him wear some, and I don't want to get too deep. In their first meeting with the rookies, they had him wear a special type of underwear and sing the Auburn Fight song on top of the table in front of everybody and their wives. So believe me, I've been versed in that a little bit growing up.
And those are the days. I remember when we got hazed. I remember we were up late one night. We were studying, and for some kind of way, the veteran guys were able to get into our rooms.
Oh yeah,
and
it so happened.
It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. We're up studying our playbook, and all of a sudden, I see we hear the key go in the door. I'm like, man, he must be double checking bedtime. Veterans run in our room. They take our playbooks, our clothes, everything. You just throw it in the middle of the floor and just dump water on top of it. And then the next day you're like, man, you can't tell the coach, like, coach, I wasn't able to study the rest of my plays. My playbook was ruined. They don't want to do that. I mean, it's like, you better figure out a way. So we're sitting there like trying to we're putting the paper and stuff on top of like the heater and just trying to dry our papers out. Everything's like smeared.
Oh my goodness. So you guys were just kind of lost for a little bit, huh?
Yeah, and then on top of that, they cut our eyebrows off. So there you go.
Oh my God! Insult me to injury. The playbook, but not my eyebrows, man. I got to go outside later. Right?
But it's one of those things, it's interesting too, because we can kind of go back to the Auburn days. It's just like when Auburn players show up to an NFL training camp. Like the coaches, the players, like everybody they treat them a different way because they have that level of respect. And they're like, oh man, he went to Auburn. We got to watch. They know it, and they knew it. They were just like, any guys that come from Auburn, like they're gonna be tough as nails, and obviously that has everything to do with our tradition. And obviously Coach Dye and just the way we play the game. So all the coaches is like, oh man, Auburn. All they did is walk on, call you Auburn all the time. So, but yeah, it was the best thing that could have happened to me going undrafted to really get the chance to sit back and to see how the pros really do it. And then you just realize that it's just a game. And I think that's what happened to me is that once from that first year to the second, it really taught me, like, it's still the same. Football's still the same, still 100 yards. The stakes are higher, obviously, because, you're playing against, grown men. But at the end of the day, once you slow it down, it's still just a football game. And I think that's what helped me so much my first year is just slowing down the game and understanding how things come together. Getting a chance to see Troy Aikman as a leader. Michael Irvin was the hardest worker on the football field. Look on the other side of the ball, you got Charles Haley, who's probably one of the strangest football players. I use that word.
Yeah,
they ever played against. But just and literally that rookie year, we end up we go to the NFL NFC Championship game against the 49ers. We end up losing. Well, we had like 3 fumbles, I think, in the first half. They had Deion Sanders, so we end up losing by, I think, 7 points. Or we're right back in the Super Bowl again and probably would have won it again. And so I go to Kansas City, and then we go 13-3 my first year in Kansas City. Cowboys go back in the Super Bowl and win it again. So I'm in between 3 Super Bowls, which is insane. Think about the dynasty that the Cowboys had during the 90s was pretty special.
Yeah, and can you? This is something again. It's just, and again, every fan, even casual fans, know that. The average time for an NFL player, I believe, is 3.5 years, 3.3 years. I think it's 9 if you're a first round pick. But to play for 16 years in that league, especially at your position, it ain't kicker. You know what I'm saying? And there's kickers that don't last 16 years. And nothing against kickers, but, you're out there running into the biggest, strongest people in our country all the time. Can you just talk about what you had to do to keep your body just to be able to play that long and to play as hard as you did and to be as effective as you were and to be a Pro Bowler?
Yeah, it's one of those things I look back and it's all mentorship. And it's just like, of coming into a locker room and, not only seeing Emmitt Smith, because, Emmitt was the guy. He had the rushing title. And so I got a chance to see him prepare every single day, taking care of his body during football practice, after football practice, the thing he was doing when he was going home, the way he studied film, all that stuff. And so obviously, seeing Daryl Johnson, seeing Tommy Yates, you seeing these guys, because really, it's not like Auburn anymore where you go to practice and there's 100 guys on the football team. So you look up and there's only 53 guys and you're one of that 53, obviously, with the practice squad. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, man, there's only like, what, 5 running backs on the entire roster? Yeah. So it's like, man, how do you keep your body in shape to where you go out, and Emmett obviously at that time was rushing, 25, 30 times a game. He had to do it for 16 weeks. So it wasn't like they were like, oh, okay, we're going to give you this week off. And it's just, you can just rest. No, you got to be ready for 16 weeks. And so it really just showed me the importance of just like nutrition. Like Emmett had a massage therapist. He had a chiropractor. He had all his stuff. The way he, obviously we had donuts on Fridays as most rookies had to bring them. So you saw the things, but you just also saw like, man, on Monday he was right back in the weight room. On Tuesday he was still coming in on his off days and in the training room and in the weight room. And on Wednesdays, his workload during practice maybe pushed back a little bit or cut back a little bit. But by Thursday and Friday he was rolling. And I was blown away because even in the SEC you plan, but there's so many guys. You have so much rotation. Mm-hmm. In NFL you don't. So then going to Kansas City, and there again I'm in the locker room with Marcus Allen, same thing. I'm like, man, I couldn't ask for a better situation from a mentor standpoint. It's just a matter of obviously you have to, things have to work in your nature to stay healthy. But there's a lot of things that you can do on your own to kind of keep you focused and keep you ready to roll. So that was just my mentality. Obviously I took a pretty strict, spiritual route too. So it wasn't like I was going out and doing all those kind of things. Once I made the decision to say, it's football and just stuff on my extracurricular activities was just giving back to the community and things like that. And so nothing else really kind of got me distracted. So that's what really helped me have a long, successful career.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's perfect, especially when you're able to see it, obviously. But again, just to be as consistent as you were and to have the work ethic that you did, it's a champion mindset, and it's the reason that you were so successful. And you talk about giving back to the community. You won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, which obviously is a humongous deal. Do you mind just for a second just talking about what that honor meant to you and especially the people that have got it, before you and just something that you're able to carry with you now when you're out of football, which that's a huge deal.
Yeah, I kind of look back and it's, everything I did during my career and that I still do in my life, I just kind of attributed back, obviously, my dad was just everything to me and still is. And so the fact that my dad was a military man, and so all of a sudden you see someone who you really look up to, you kind of want to model your life after. And my dad, like every single day for, my entire childhood, he was in the military. He was out serving our country, never complained, got up every morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, put his boots on, all this kind of thing. And so, around Thanksgiving time, it could be Christmas time, it could be we would just have these random soldiers just sitting at our dinner table. I'm sitting there like, who are these people? Well, you know what I mean? But it was just one of those things that my parents just at a young age, and I don't think they were like, they didn't really have to like tell us. It just kind of, they showed us. And so like we would have different soldiers at the house and like, guys who didn't have a place to go during certain holidays, and they'd be sitting at our dinner table just hanging out. And I just saw like, how much, whenever we went places, the reverence that, a lot of the soldiers and the families that they had for my dad. And so I was just like, man, every chance I got, even now, it's just like, my dad says just 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's up to you to decide how you want to spend it. And so just for me, it's just like, okay, when football's over or, even during the football season, you got a job to do, but on top of that, you got a lot more free time because I didn't have to go to school. I obviously went back and got my MBA. Mm-hmm. But when you have that type of time, it's like, man, you can go back in the community on Tuesdays. You can give back. You can do different things to the week. And just you use your platform to really try to help other people. And that's where I got that mentality from. And that's, that I pray that never leaves me, because for me, it's just, it's fortunate to do something that, that you really want to do, since you started playing football. But I think it's more important to help other people along the way.
Exactly. And kind of in closing here, Tony, again, man, I really appreciate you joining us. I just think it's such an incredible story. When you look at it from the beginning, of you kind of going to football practice because of the people you were hanging out with and to make it all the way to, an unbelievable 16-year career. When you look back on your career now, Tony, and please let everybody know what you're doing now, what is the biggest thing that you take away? What is the overriding theme of the career of Tony Richardson? If you could write a 2-sentence, I know I'm putting you on the spot, just kind of paraphrase what your biggest takeaway from your career is, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway, and I'll kind of tell you what I'm doing now, but my biggest takeaway is just like, you know what, whatever you do, just put your best foot forward and good things work out, because it's just one of those things that, I look back at my career and it's like, okay, here's this kid from Daleville, Alabama, who goes 2-8, ends up at Auburn, has no business there. Per se, it's just like no one in my high school had ever got a Division I scholarship, and let alone to play at Auburn. And then all of a sudden you get there, and you're like number 11 on the depth chart. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many times where you could have, when I didn't. I had scholarship offers, but obviously Auburn and Coach Doc took a chance on me, and all of a sudden end up starting as a freshman. Like, those kind of things are those things you see in a movie is not just supposed to happen in your life. And then obviously you meet great people like your dad. You meet so many great people at Auburn. You build these relationships that forge and carry you for the rest of your life. But then all of a sudden, the draft comes around and, everyone's saying, oh, man, you had a great college career. You're going to go second round, maybe third round. And then all of a sudden you sit there and boom, you're disappointed again. But then you realize, you say, the upbringing and the things that your parents taught you, the things that your teammates at Auburn taught you, the things that Coach Doc taught you, is like it prepares you for what's next in life. And so going to Dallas and then there again, boom, not necessarily falling on my face, but you also just realize, like, man, it didn't quite work out like I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And then boom, I'm right back to fighting and working hard again. But it's just, I think that's what life is all about. Is sometimes that knock you down or some things that don't go in your favor. But the only thing you can do is control what you can control and go out and bust your butt and work hard and good things actually work out for you. So I guess that's the story of Tony Richardson. And it wasn't, and you look back sometimes, you pinch yourself. You're like, man, how in the world is this kid from Daleville end up, and who was born in Germany, who didn't even play football. And you look up, there's so many more kids that were, some of the kids in high school and Daleville are some guys I played with in the Wiregrass with so much more talent. You know what I mean? It's just like, how did this end up happening to me? But, it's just one of those things. You keep your faith strong, you keep working hard, and good things work out for you.
Definitely. Well, Tony, man, like I've said multiple times, it's an honor having you on the show, man. You're a great representation of Auburn and the Kansas City Chiefs and everything that you've touched. And we'd love to have you back. And, especially once we get closer to football season, talk a little SEC football, because I know you keep up with it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it just goes away.
Yeah, I would love to. So obviously, Auburn still. We have believe it or not, we have an Auburn alumni association right here in New York City. Really? And literally on an Auburn Sunday, Tequila Spice has come up before. Fred Baxter, who went to Brundage from Auburn. Fred, I see Fred all the time. He's a former Jet, so we still talk. But yeah, we go to this Auburn bar, man. We might have 200. It's so crazy too. Is all of a sudden, you walk by, they have an all be outside.
No way.
Dude, I'm talking about like rocking. You'll have like 200.
I got to go, man. I got to go.
Yeah, we'll have about 250 Auburn people. It's like you start talking, and it's like the pastor of my church here in New York City, him and his wife went to Auburn. And
wow.
Like, dude, how in the world? It's crazy.
That's crazy.
My neighborhood. Him and I are talking. We graduated the same year. He's like, yeah, man. I was like, dude, just nowhere in the world, all the way from Auburn, Alabama.
That's insane.
I meet people in here in New York City. So yeah, we got a great following up there.
That's awesome. And again, at the end of the day, man, that's what it's about. And that's a cool deal. So if I'm ever in New York and something goes down, at least I know I got somebody who'll have my back up there. So
you got
it. Well, Tony, I appreciate you, man. You're a stand-up guy, and we're definitely going to have you back on, man. And I know you're a busy guy, but shoot, let's talk soon and hope everything keeps going well for you.
Sounds good. And thanks so much for having me. As always, War Eagle.
Hey, Tony, you already know, man. No doubt, War Eagle.
All right, brother.
And that was Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Famer, NFL All-Decade Team, 3-time Pro Bowler, Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. Just an outstanding guy, Mr. Tony Richardson. Really, really a great interview, a guy that really told his story. It's an amazing story, especially if you listen to it from the beginning, against all odds, multiple times, being able to come back and have such a distinguished career. But again, appreciate you guys joining us on this Tuesday edition. Remember, tomorrow we got Dukes the Scoop, Mr. Phillip Dukes, our big recruiting episode of the week. There's some updates on some guys I know some people will be very interested to hear. Auburn's doing pretty well on the high-profile guys they're going after, so do not miss that one tomorrow, our usual Wednesday recruiting deal. Remember, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at The Jboy Show. We're on YouTube, The Jboy Show, anywhere you get your podcasts. That's Apple, Spotify, anywhere. It's The Jboy Show. We're powered by the Investor Brand Network, the best PR and marketing team in the business. If you need help, literally just DM me, and I can get you hooked up pretty easy. So that's something you guys need to take advantage of. And also, shout out to Faison in the studio doing his thing, the Harry Potter behind the Wizard of Oz curtain, whatever you want to call it. But again, this has been another edition of Jboy with NFL Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Famer Tony Richardson, and Jboy is gone.